It is now buffering. Alright, okay. So, and we're live. We're here on YouTube and Twitch and Discord and Erindale's server. I just wanted to say hello to everyone here. We've got Fuchimbar, Good Punked, Slink, Squid, and Cinder. So thanks for being here, and I hope you guys have a good hour. So basically today we're going to be taking a look at a little bit of character kit bashing. Basically, I have a library of clothes that I've designed or that I've found as CCO or CC BY on the internet, and I'm going to adapt them with my shader system and then going to try work them into an actual character with some goals and targets. So this is an open microphone today. If you guys have questions or art to take a look at or a topic you want to take a look at, feel free, and we can go from there. Alright, so the first things first, there are a couple of things I'll need to take a look at. We've got basically how do we do character design with kit bashing, and also just a quick summary of the asset browser. I'm using an older version right now though. And then we're going to take a look at likeness tips and other concepts for exploration. For example, blockout of different body shapes with the Painterly in context. So I've been working with this Painterly shader for a while, so it's got some updates, and I made a quick little add-on to work it. But first things first, I need to actually think a little bit. So when I go inside the Painterly scene, I have some problems. The key problem is basically if I zoom out, with the camera, and I see the character, facial features start to get lost with the detail, and little detail on the body gets lost as well. Whoops, if not completely lost. Why is it running slow? Must be the stream. Before we begin, Slink and Good, how have you guys been?
Pretty good.
What projects have you been working on these days? Oh yeah, you good?
I'm trying to do Mountain in 3.0, but Blender Psychics just doesn't want to render for some reason.
Yeah, what's wrong?
It gives me an error.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm working on a music video, doing some environments for that, and I want to have it look all toony, like I have a toon shader which I'm applying to everything. So I got no errors, I'm fine, I'm good.
I'm glad to hear that. It's good when things just work.
Yeah.
And I see that you look like you have a memory issue with your CUDA device, Slink.
What should I do? What the fuck should I do?
Invalid value in the memory, the CPU, something rather. Are you rendering from GPU or CPU?
A GPU.
Try
with my Power 1060.
Switch over to CPU, just for the sake of doing
just
that.
for kicks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, CPU is working fine. But GPU doesn't work at all.
So maybe hitting a memory cap.
Yeah, maybe I should clear some stuff.
Yep. Alright, so I guess we can go back to the topic. So when I talk about kit bashing, do you guys know what kit bashing is?
Yeah. It's you're using stuff that's available in different parts to create, like, you could make a scene out of that, or you could even make a new model out of like little parts that you put together like a puzzle.
Like a puzzle, that's right, like Lego almost.
Yeah.
And have you done this with characters before?
No, I've never done this, but I always wanted to because there's an architect I could. I think his name is like Mark Foster, and he's using kitbashing methods to do some really crazy buildings. Really interesting guy, and I have seen that he has made some arcs and some buildings that look. On the first touch, they look kind of old looking because they have this, like it's very decorative. But when you look into it, you can see that they are like very crazy parts, like I don't know, from Mickey Mouse or something like this.
It sounds like work I've seen with people. He uses this technique quite a bit.
Yeah, true.
Okay, so we're going to do the same with character design. But I'm going to just play around with proportions. We're looking at different references, looking at different like scales and sizes of the characters to take a look at how we can make them. Because my biggest issue is I like my proportions, but it doesn't quite look, it's not very readable with the Painterly. So we need to work around that a little bit. And we'll see what we can do. Alright, so here's my references. And also, we have a likeness reference that we need to look at. Basically, this is the key character. He's my client, he's a DJ. So we need to take a look
He
at
looking sick, man.
Yeah, he's cool. Sorry about the background noise. And basically...
Well-dressed gentleman.
Hello?
Yeah, hi.
Hello, Eon and Cinder. And we got and Yeetus. Yeetus! I'm glad you're here.
Wait, you sound like you know me, what?
Yeah, I know you. I know you for your art and for hanging out in the Blender Royale.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a short memory. Good lord, Beatus.
Or maybe it's someone else
Wait,
that's
do I
called
know you or are
Yeetus.
you messing with me?
He's
Maybe. I don't know. I play here often in the Blender Royale with Steven Scott, and yeah, I've just been here a while.
Cool.
So basically, so for those who just crashed in, basically I'm going to do taking a look at character design in more of a kit bash kind of approach, and exploring like character proportions design and also likeness based on facial recognition techniques and theory. You guys want to hang out? Basically, it's for this Painterly project that I have here.
We're also doing a Painterly project, and that's what we need help
And that's...
What a coincidence.
crazy.
Really?
We spent 3 days on this.
So this is the
Oh,
Painterly
God.
project.
Damn.
It looks so good.
So I've been working
Is
on
this
this
done
for
with...
Eevee.
sorry to ask, but is this done with... I mean, yeah, Eevee, but is this done with compositing?
No. This is I use a
No?
technique called pre-processing, which is a plane in
Huh.
front of the camera with using incoming refraction shaders and RGB, shaded to RGB.
Why didn't we think of that?
And it makes it a little bit more real time, so I don't have to like render and composite to see what I want, basically. Because of my stream, FPS has dropped to half, but you can see it running in the viewport.
Yes.
Maybe like
Impressive.
when you want to work on something like with this painterly look, it could be really interesting for you to look into an AI program called Absinthe. I don't know if you know it, but essentially what you do with Absinthe is like you have like a short sequence maybe, and you paint.
Ebisynth.
Yeah, Ebisynth. Maybe it's okay. So you know it.
Yeah, Ebisynth. Yeah, I know it.
Yeah,
So
I've used
basically,
it.
it's using AI. I don't know. Oh, you know it?
Yeah. The issue with it though is that it's sometimes not very coherent and can become quite dreamy, and there's a lot of glitches in certain areas. So
Its accuracy is very low.
Exactly. So especially if you have like a lot of motion blur, a lot of reflections, or a lot of like moving around, then it starts to break. For still shots, it works okay. But in this case, this here has a lot of camera action with this series, so I need something a lot more coherent. So with this painterly, what I did is if I zoom into the head, you can see like there's a lot of brush strokes on the head paint. And if I zoom in even more, it just fills in with more brush strokes. And if I zoom out, it kind of removes detail from the head so that the brush strokes are even less. You can see it very evidently here with these spheres. If I zoom in, there's more paint strokes. If I zoom out, there are less paint strokes. So that's a coherent distance technique that I've talked about a couple of weeks ago. And the new
Decompression of Discord is destroying so much.
Yes.
Oh, really? I do have a
Yeah,
stream on
this-
Twitch. Maybe it's a little bit cleaner there. Might be delayed.
I think like when you just stay at one frame for some time, it gets good.
Yeah.
Like I would like to see like a detail, but it would be cool if you could just have it load for some seconds. If you zoom somewhere
Okay.
near.
Right, so let's take a look at the blue
It's really
sphere.
interesting. Yeah.
So you can see the sphere. I'll wait for a couple of seconds.
Yeah, now it's good. It's good. Yeah.
All right, zoom in. You can see the brush strokes. There's more detail.
Okay. Yeah, it's getting better now. Yeah. Oh wow.
How did you pull it off though? Like, is this all done with vector displacement or?
Nope.
No vector. Just magic filigree.
Yeah, let me walk you through the shader nice and quickly. So basically there are two. I'm using
Blender
nodes.
for artists?
Be for artists, yeah.
No Cinema 4D.
Death.
All right, so the first things that you need, there are two elements that are important with it. One is called coherent scale, and the other one is based on UVs. Coherent scale, UVs, and then there's the normals and the color lighting. So the first things first is I need to take a look at the coherent scale, which is this texture source with a coherent distance node group. This node group basically has the scale of the brush texture, which is one brush texture. So if I zoom in here and I take a look at the brush texture, which is this. Here it is. This is the brush texture, something I created. It could be anything, any type of paintbrush you want, but I wanted something rough, with gray values, whites and blacks, kind of get that texture in a very kind of similar direction, So I designed the brush. This is the basis of everything, and then from there I start working. The next basic thing is this. You take camera data, then you use a logarithm of 2, and then you floor the logarithm, and you power it by 2 with a base 2, and you divide it again. The reason you do this is you take it kind of creates a stepped. Let me just recompile the shader so you can see. If you take a look, if I zoom out, notice that there's like it changes the white or the gray values the closer it is to the camera. All right. So this float value is based on the camera distance, and this is driving the scale of the UV, or the scale of the brush texture. Yeah. So this brush texture, it drives 2 levels of texture. I do it twice. So one is called, I have an offset, which is subtract by half, and then I have a stepped logarithm. So these are my 2 layers, and they both drive a scale of 1 level and the scale of another level. I have 2 sets of textures. One is for the UV seam and the other one is not. So let's just focus on the top one. So I have one UV scale here and the other UV scale with the offset, and then I use a blend, which I created here using another texture. This blend is based on a world position offset. And this blend is basically, you take the same stepped system, you subtract it again, and you ping pong it to create kind of a gradient with a texture based on a coloring of everything that you need with a certain texture like this, black and white. And I use that to drive out the blending of the two textures. So the top texture, if you take a look closely here in the view, this one's a bit smaller and this one's half the size. So these two are constantly blending between the two levels, so that like you have closer to the camera is at one size, further than the camera is double the size. And then you use the ping pong gradients between the levels to kind of drive that out.
As a factor. Okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah. So if we take a look at like this preview node, so this is one layer, right? You can see like with this ground. Sorry, let me just make sure I can select the ground. Where's the ground? Got too many things.
You gotta love the hundreds of objects.
And this scene is just a simple one right now. There we go. If I select the ground here, make it bigger, you can see that I have like this crazy noisy dirtiness between the top half and the bottom half. This is kind of like that gradient ping pong that I have. So that, notice it's working in waves. So this is how I hide the scene, because without the waves,
it would just pop into every texture.
It'll be a
so
straight,
like
it'll be a straight line, right, between the two scaled UVs. So you want to hide that seam, so I hid it with let me just show you. I hid the seam with another texture. If we zoom out again, now I'm using the noisiness plus the other texture to kind of hide the seam a little bit, make it less noticeable between the two scales. So this is called coherent distance within the brush strokes, because brushes don't change sizes with the distance. In 3D they do, but in 2D they do not. So in 2D you want to paint the distance with the same brush size as everything else. So this was the first foundation of the painterly, is make sure that my texture is the same size far away as it is up to the camera, and make it also coherent so that it's like stuck onto the object so it doesn't jitter so much. So this is the first step. The next step after that is you got to I use normals to create the shape of the model. So let's take a look at the normals. So the normals, I'm using the same texture that I used from the coherent distance to drive the normals. So as you can see, the normals are not smooth on the model. This is super important, because if we take a look at the character, we don't want it to look completely flat in 3D. So we want to work the normals so that they are in sync with the brush strokes. If I zoom out, you can see that there are brush strokes kind of going along with the normals along the arm hair, for example. Let's hold it. And you can see that it kind of breaks up the edge of that arm, so it's not like a flat shape. You can see it most hair on the spheres. So this is the second important thing, is broken normals based on the shape of the brush. I also use a Voronoi. So that's the next thing, to kind of break up the silhouette of the terminator of the light. That's the second foundation. The next foundation is you need to break up the silhouette of the object. So to break up the silhouette of the object, I use a Fresnel or a dot product from the normals with the same brush texture, so that if I zoom out it keeps the detail. But I use the Fresnel as a mask, and this, I clip the mask of the objects using Fresnel to break up the shape of the object to some degree. You can also optionally model your objects to have those shapes, but here is like, it's a basic, it looks like I haven't got a full 3D object because I've broken up the